Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the second lesson for Microsoft Access Database. In this lesson I'm going to briefly explain how you can import from Excel workbook. Let us go to blank database. Now we got a blank database. Well, instead of designing table now, we are going to import from Microsoft Excel. So go to external data, then go to click on Excel. Now you have three options. You have the import, and you have the append, and you have link. The first option means simply that you are just importing the table as it is. The append means that you have already table in Microsoft Access and you want to add data from Excel to Access. So here you simply specify what is the table name or select it. The link means that you are going to work on Microsoft Excel, but you are going to get a link to this table in Microsoft Excel. So any changes in the table after you have the link will be updated automatically to Microsoft Access. It simply means that you are still working on Microsoft Excel tables. Then you are getting a synchronized copy automatically once you use Microsoft Access. This is very useful. Sometimes you have some setup on Microsoft Excel and you have some users are working on Excel. So instead of changing the work from Excel to Access, and maybe some users doesn't have Access database or they are not familiar with using Access, then you simply just leave the work as it is in Microsoft Excel and link this data, this table to Microsoft Access. So any changes or any updates in Microsoft Excel will be automatically reflected to Microsoft Excel Access. So now we are going just to use the first option, which is import. You have to specify where is the file. Now the file I put it on under C and under folder called practice. It's called practice. Okay, then I select the file, then click OK. Now as you see I have three worksheets: source and sales and customers. Let us start by customers. Click next, then first row contains column, yes, then next. Then here it's showing you simply what is the data type available. For example, the customer ID is a double, means number. Customer is a text. The start date is a date and time. So as long as this is correct and there is no need to make changes, you just go for next. If you need to make any change, you simply click on this drop down list and specify what is the correct or the other data type for this column. Now you go to next. Then here it's asking you that let Access add primary key or choose my own primary key or no primary key. Well, in fact, getting a primary key in Microsoft Access is very helpful. It's not mandatory. You can work with Access database without primary key. But the point is, when you have a primary key, you are getting advantage of the primary key features. The main feature of the primary key is that it is not accepting duplicates. So, for example, when you come to the customers, you have the customer ID. Say you have customer ID, customer name, start date, activity, but this customer name or the start date may be duplicated for any reason. You may have the two customers using the same name, maybe one customer in this country, other customer the same name in other country, but it's not possible to duplicate the customer ID. So the customer ID is a unique identifier. That's why you can use it as primary key. If you put by mistake or try to type the customer ID for some customer and try to type the customer ID for other customer, the program will not accept this data entry as long as you define this customer ID as the primary key. So now let us choose my own primary key, which is the customer ID. If you need to choose something else, you simply specify what is the field from this list. Then go to next. Now this is the table name, finish, close. So it's done. Now we imported one table called customers. Then let us repeat the same steps to import the other two tables. Go to external data, Excel, browse, select the file, OK. Now let us choose the sales, next. First row, yes, contains, correct, next. Data type is OK, next. Choose my own primary key, which is the sales ID for sure, next. Finish. So it's done. We imported the second one. Let us import the last one. External data, Excel, browse, practice, OK. Data source one. The source here is containing the transactions. In fact, it's showing the customer ID and the sales ID and the product A sales, product B sales, and the report date or transaction date. Well, in fact, it's a kind of operations table. So it's containing more than one entry for the same salesperson and more than one entry for the same customer. Go to next. First row, yes, next. These are the data types, they are OK, next. Now let us choose my own primary key, which is the ID number. In fact, you cannot consider that in the sales on the source, sorry, in the source table the primary key is the sales or the customer. The sales ID is the primary key in the sales table, but here in the source or the transactions or operations table, it is not the primary key. The customer key is what is the primary key in the customers table, but when you come to the source table, it is not the customer ID, the primary key. So what it is called then? Here it is called foreign key. So the sales ID in the sales table is primary key, but the sales ID in the transactions or source table is what? Foreign key. Also the customer ID in the customers table is primary key, but when it comes to the customer ID in the source table, it is called the customer, it is called the foreign key. So now the primary key is the ID number for the transaction, which should be a unique identifier. Then go to next, finish, then close. So now we have 1, 2, 3 tables. So let us design a query which will read information from the 3 tables. Let us go to create, query design. Once you click on query design, the show table is coming. Let us double click this table, double click the other table, double click the third table, then go to close. So now we got the 3 tables in the query design window, as you see. What we will do now is we will make a query. The query looks like a table, but it is not a table. It is reading from table and it is not a table. It means that when you are updating your data, you are not updating the query. It means that you are not making data entry in the query, but you are making data entry in tables. Then the query is automatically updated. This is one of the main differences between Microsoft Excel and Access. Well, in fact, in Microsoft Excel, if you need to make some report, for example, from some worksheets, then almost you are going to use some copy and paste and sort and filter and then at the end you are taking part of the data by some look, which would be considered as a report. Okay, so what if you have some changes in Microsoft Excel after you get this, you made this job? That will be a problem. Maybe you have to go back to repeat or to correct the data, and so you are going to make a lot of steps again to get this report updated. But in Microsoft Access you are not doing this. say that, look at these three tables. We have customer, sales, source. So say that we need to get some data from these three tables. We can simply design some query which is getting this result. Then if there is any change in the tables after designing the query, this query is automatically updated. So you don't worry about updating your work in Microsoft Access, because you are not modifying the source tables to get some report, but you are designing a query and report based on the tables. So any change in the source tables will automatically reflect to the result in the query, and any related reports to this query. So now let us first see what we have to do. We want to show all fields in the source table in addition to the area from the sales table, in addition to the activity from the customers table. But do you think that we can show it by this way? We cannot show information from three tables by this way unless there is a relationship. Relationship simply means that you tell the computer that this customer ID is the same customer ID. So when you try to get the activity for each customer here, the computer will give you the correct activity because it is mapping this activity to this customer ID, which is the same customer ID. The same is going on the sales table. When we want to get, for example, the area for each sales, for each transaction, so the area here is in the sales table. So the computer has to recognize that this sales ID is the same sales ID. So once you try to get the area for this sales ID, it will be correct because this sales ID is the same sales ID for this line or for this record. So it means that we have to specify relationship. How to do this? In a very simple way, you can click on the sales ID and drag it to the sales ID. So this is drag and drop. So you get a line. When you double click, you will see that the properties is showing that it is sales ID to sales ID. Okay, so this is correct. Let us map or make a relationship between customer ID, the customer ID to the customer ID, the same way, drag and drop. So when you double click, it will show you that this is the relationship between customer ID to customer ID. Okay, that's excellent. So what else? Now we have to show the fields. Show the fields means simply that you make like this, double click the field, it will go down in the query window. Double click, 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 double click. Then from the sales table we will select the area only, that's enough, double click. Then we will take the activity from the customers, double click. So as you see now, all fields or all required fields is inserted in the query window. In order to see your work, you can click on the datasheet view. So this is the query now. You see it's containing information from the source table in addition to the area from the sales table, in addition to the activity from the customers table. So now we got this query, then we can save it. You simply click on Control S. It looks like saving any file in Microsoft Office. Control S. Then you can name it like results. So now we got query called results. Okay, so as you see now, the query containing the same number of records, 500 records, from 1 to 500 records. What if you want to only show some of the data? So like what? To show some of the data, for example, when you come to the sales representative, say that we want to show all names which are starting with MR, means Mr. or Mrs. So how to do this? Now we are going to use some simple way. In fact, it's very simple and it will save a lot of your time. Say that now we want to get another query which contains all names starting with Mr. or Mrs. We are not going to design the query again. We are just going to use the same query, and after making some changes as requested or as required, we will simply click on F12. It means save as. So save as will get another or a new version for the query. Now go first to the design view of the results. So this is the same query. Let us go under sales representative, and you simply can type MR star, then use tab key. You see that it's converted to what? Like MR star, and MR star is already inserted between two quotation marks. This is how the text is treated, and you are now telling the computer take everything starting with MR. If you look at the result, you'll see that it's taking all names starting with Mr. or Mrs. Now we can click on F12 to save as a different query and call it MR. So now as you see, we got a new query called MR. Let us go back to the first one. You see that it remains the same. Now say that in the sales representative we need to get all names which contain Ahmad. So how to do this? You see that you cannot say Ahmad star. If you say Ahmad, if you type Ahmad star, it will bring everything coming after Ahmad, but Ahmad is not in the beginning of line, so we have to put another star before. It means simply star, Ahmad star. So let us go to the design view and go again under the sales representative and type star Ahmad star. Then when you click on the tab key, it's converted to what? To like, again, like operator, and between two quotation marks star Ahmad star. If you look at the result, you'll see that it's giving all names containing Ahmad. So now we can click on F12 and save it as Ahmad. So now we have another query. Let us go back to the results and say that under the product A sales, we want to get all sales greater than 7,000. So we will go to the design view, and under product A you type greater than 7,000, then you click on the view. So as you see now, all values greater than 7,000 only are shown. So now you can click on F12 and give it save greater than 7,000. So we got another query greater than 7,000. Let us go back to the results and say that we want to get another query which is containing in product B all results which is between 5,000 and 7,000. So go to the design view, and under product B you can simply type between 5,000 and 7,000. See that it is now automatically capitalized to indicate that this is correct. At the same time, note that when you are typing numbers, the numbers are inserted as they are. There is no quotation mark or anything else for the numbers. It's not like the text. But if the data type for the product B is not a number, then you will not get a correct result. Now look at the view to see the result. You will get all data now correct. So after getting this result, we can now click on F12 to give it the name like between 5,000 and 7,000. So we got a new query. So now what if you go again to the results? Let us have some query which is showing you all transactions in which the transaction date is between 15 January 2016 and 15 March 2016. we are going to go to the design view, then under the transaction date we will type between, but we are not going to type 15/1/2016 because the system format, as you see here, is what? Month, day, year. So we have simply to type 1/15/2016, then space and space 3/15/2016. That's it. Now as you see, the date is converted to or inserted between two hash keys. This is how the Access database is treating dates in the query. When you click on the view, you see that only dates between 15 January and 15 March are shown. Then we can click F12 and give it like between dates. So this is the end of lesson 2. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.